Have you ever been faced with a song or a beat where you just can't seem to play it slow enough? No matter what you do, you're always rushing the beat by quite a lot. Let me show you some tricks that even the pros use to help play slow. The first trick we're going to look at is using subdivisions. Let's take the following drum beat as an example, played nice and slow at 40 beats per minute. Here, the hi-hat is playing straight eighths. It's pretty slow between each hit and can be difficult to play right, especially if you're stopping between each stroke. We can adjust for this by subdividing the hi-hat's eighth notes into 16th notes. For example, we don't have to play all the 16ths either. By breaking it up, we still achieve that better feel while making it maybe a little bit more tasty. And of course, you're not restricted to doing this on just the hi-hat. All right, let's move on to our next trick. Let's imagine that for some reason, subdivisions is not an option. Maybe you're doing studio work, you're restricted on what you're allowed to play, you can only do something very basic and only eighth notes. In this case, you want the motion you use while playing the beat to take a longer amount of time. For example, let's look at this issue when playing slow. Pay very close attention to my right hand while I'm playing on the crash. As you can see, I was stopping between each hit on the crash, effectively going into a resting position. That makes it very difficult to feel the correct amount of time in between each hit. Instead, it's better to have the motion of the hit take the entire amount of time in between each hit. For example, at this point, my right hand is setting the tempo well for the beat, and it would be easy for my left hand and my kick to follow along with that. But if I wanted to, I could also try a long motion on my snare. What if you needed to play something even slower than that? Maybe you're only playing quarter notes or maybe half notes. Well, in that case, a single long motion may not be feasible because it may be too long of a motion. If you ever played in a high school band or orchestra, you may have learned about tapping your toe inside of your shoe. The idea is that you're making some sort of physical motion. This will help you keep the time, help you keep the tempo when you're not actually playing. Now, when you're playing on a drum set, we can't use this technique directly because your foot actually needs to be used in this case. But we can apply that concept in a different way. In this case, we're going to move our body, or really our torso, in beat with the music. Yes, this is not very efficient. It's going to use more energy to do this. But if you're playing so sparsely as to justify doing this, you're probably not using that much energy to begin with. Here's how that might look. The best part of this approach is that it helps when you need to come in cold. Let's say you're playing live and you're playing for a bit and then you need to stop for a measure or half a measure and then come in again. Or you're in the studio, you're recording a song in sections, and you're having problems coming in right on the beat. Making some sort of motion like this, either with your whole body or starting to just move your hands in advance, will help ensure that you land on the beat properly. It'll also help ensure that once you land on the beat, you're not initially playing too fast or too slow, that you're coming in properly with the correct tempo. Besides playing slow, another case where you may lose sense of the beat is when you're playing longer drum fills. And you can find details on how to correct those issues right over here. Until next time, peace.